Good morning. Getting me some coffee. And of course I have my kitchen helper. Let me get him a treat. You need a treat. Yes. And we'll get Puppy his treat. Okay, so we've got coffee, we got Puppy taken care of. So we are going to empty the dehydrator and take a look at what I've dehydrated and got dehydrated. And basically I'll give you my short review on the dehydrator. And let's try one of these. That one didn't work. Okay. Yeah. So I'll show you what I've dehydrated. Give you a small review on what I think of the hydrator. And then we'll get moving on to making some Amish noodles. So let me get my hands washed and we'll get started. All on, Bubby. It's all Mommy has. It's all on. Okay, let's get you moved over here. And I'll get you down just a little bit. I know, Bubby. It's all going. That's all Mommy's got this morning. That's all Mommy has this morning. This is, I know better. So, yes, we have puppy treats. Okay, we'll go ahead and get the dehydrator emptied. The last thing that I dehydrated was some mixed vegetables. It's got peas, corn, carrots, and green beans. So I'm going to go ahead and get this emptied. And then we can get started on the noodles. And so far, I have dehydrated corn. And it dehydrated evenly on the trays. And as you can see, this is very nicely dehydrated. So I'm just going to put that in a jar. And I'm just using a paper towel to use as a funnel. And this was one frozen bag of mixed vegetables. And everything dehydrated at the same temperature, 122. And I didn't have to rotate any of the racks. I did put parchment paper on the racks just because of the small vegetables. And it was set on 122, and I did each one of them. I did the corn, the peas, and the mixed vegetables for 8 hours. Just a minute, Bubby. Come here. Let me put you somewhere. Being anxious this morning. I'm running a little bit behind. Hello. How are you this morning? We're emptying the dehydrator first. This is the new dehydrator. And this was the third time that I ran anything through. First I did corn by itself. Then I did peas. And now these are the mixed vegetables. It has green beans, peas, corn, and carrots. And it worked very nice. I set it on the 122, ran it for 8 hours. It dehydrated evenly. I didn't have to rotate my racks. And I love the color. It came out with the prettiest color for my vegetables. They're not dark. They're not real discolored at all. So I really do like the new Magic Meal dehydrator. I'm hoping I can get the rest of those in there. I may have to use a bigger jar. And I love that you can save so much space when you dehydrate. You don't have to have it in the freezer. And this was one large bag of frozen vegetables. And like I said, everything dehydrated evenly. I did not have to rotate my shelves. That's going to be a little fuller than what I want. So I'll just add that to a larger jar here in a little bit. But that will show you how pretty they are. I'll go ahead and get one of these out. Put one of my oxygen absorbers in there. But I just want you to see how pretty those turned out. Ryder, you have to wait a minute, Bubba. Yeah. See what pretty color they are. And I have a little one being very impatient this morning. And I will move that to a larger jar here in a little bit because I want a little bit more room. But this will give you an idea of what I dehydrated. First I did the corn. And as you can see, everything's nice and dry. It has a beautiful color to it. Then I dehydrated the frozen peas, and they have got beautiful color. Nothing's sticking, everything's rolling, nice and dry. And then today, I went ahead and removed the frozen mixed vegetables. So, do I like the new dehydrator? I really do. It's compact. It doesn't take up a whole lot of space. So I think it's very nice. And it is the Magic Meal. And I really like it. It came with the 7 wire racks. It came with 2 of the mesh liners. And then it also came with 2 of the little lift trays if you want to dehydrate the liquid. He was sleeping until I went to do my live, and then he decided he was going to get up. So, that's what that all turned out. How long have you been trans? I'm not trans, sorry. And we do not tolerate any hate on this channel. So if you're going to be like that, I'm going to block you. There, you've been blocked. Okay, so now what we're going to do today is we're going to make some egg noodles. And what these are, I'll just bring it over here, one at a time, so I have an easy access to puppy's treats. What I'm going to be using today is an Amish cookbook that I picked up. And it says, Simply Delicious Recipes from Amish and Mennonite Homes. And my grandmother was a Mennonite, and I just loved to go to my grandmother's. So today, the one that we're going to be using, the recipe I'm going to be using, is the traditional noodles. Above it, you have the homemade noodles, which would be this egg noodle. And then you have a traditional noodle. And I'm looking for a thicker noodle today. So that's the recipe I'm going to be using. And these are about the noodle that I'm going to be looking for. Now these I purchased from the store, and my husband really loves these noodles, and these are called an Amish noodle. And these are his favorite noodles. So I'm going to try and see if this Amish noodle recipe will give me something similar to the store-bought Amish brand noodles. And then today, I'm going to be trying out the new noodle hanging rack. And this is just a portable hanging rack. So instead of laying them on the trays today, I'm going to be using the portable hanging rack. Okay, so the recipe today calls for 6 eggs. So I have 6 eggs at room temperature. It calls for 4 tablespoons of cold water. So we've got the cold water. It calls for a half a teaspoon of salt. So we've got the salt ready. And it calls for, sorry about that, and it calls for 4 cups of all-purpose flour. So this is going to be a really large batch. Mommy's almost out of treats, Papa. Oops, dropped them on you. So this is the recipe that I'm using. And I'm just following the recipe. I'll hold it up there so you can see it. It's the traditional. Hopefully you can see that good enough. And we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and get Puppy some more treats there. Go ahead and do another hand wash. And we will get started. What are we making, Grandma? We are making some traditional Amish noodles. And I'm using the Amish Community Cookbook. And we're just using the traditional noodle recipe. And this is going to be a very large batch. So I'm just going to follow the instructions right down the line. So I'm going to move you back here just a little bit so I can get you down where you can see. So I've got all my ingredients. It's simple ingredients. It says mix the eggs, cold water, and salt well. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I'll let these get room temperature because it's a noodle dough. And it calls for 6 eggs. And this is a little different than what I've been making. I've been running mine through the pasta maker. The hand crank pasta maker. So I'm just going to follow this recipe. I was really excited to see this cookbook, and when I seen it, I flipped through it and purchased it. And I've made a couple recipes out of it, and so far they've been absolutely delicious. Okay, so there's 6 eggs. 4 tablespoons of cold water. It's wanting me to mix all of this together. And the salt. And that is 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now my other recipe, you made a well in your flour and you added your eggs right to the flour. So this morning we're going to be following this recipe right down the line. And like I said before, I used my portable pasta maker. Today we're going to be using a rolling pin. So let me go ahead and get these all mixed in real good, just to blend them well. I hope everyone's having a good day. This is the first time I've made it this way, so we're doing this together. Okay. Now it says add flour and knead about 100 times. So here's my flour. So now I'm going to have to add it to my flour. And I'm just going to kind of well this just a little bit. Just out of habit. It's a lot of eggs. And it's saying to knead about 100 times. So I'm going to go ahead and get them hands in there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Give me just 1 minute to take care of Puppy. Puppy, that's all Mommy has this morning. All the treats that Mommy has. They're all gone. So Mommy's going to give you one of these, and then I'm going to have to wash my hand again. You're being very, very needy this morning. Doing this one-handed, so please be patient. Yep. No, all going. That's all Mommy has. That's all I got. All going. All done. Okay. Let me wash that hand again. It's all going, Mommy. All right. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. I want to ignore him. 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. It's getting very thick. 37, 38, 39. I don't know if I can do this or not. 40, because my hands just do not have the strength they used to. 41, 42, 43, 44. Take some of that off in there. 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Yes, that's an empty jar. 1, 2, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. Here, one bite of dough. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. If I can't get some more of that off. Yes, I wash out any of my jars that are glass, like my spaghetti sauce jars, my pickle jars. So if I'm going to be dehydrating, which I was just showing you some dehydrated, I'll wash them out really good and then run them through the dishwasher and sanitize them, and I can use them for my dehydrated vegetables. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. And it's coming into a real nice ball. 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. Okay, we have kneaded that 100 times. And this is, yes, olive pickles are the best. Yes, they are. Okay, this is the nice ball that I've got. I kneaded that the 100 times. So let me go ahead and clean this off a little bit and get me a little bit of flour out. And this is a recipe that I've not tried yet, but all the ones I have tried in this book I really like. And like I said, my grandmother was a Mennonite, and I loved to go to her house. It always smelled like cakes and pies and all kinds of goodness. Especially in the winter time when we all went out to visit. When you opened the door, it just smelled like a bakery at my grandmother's house. Very, very good memories. All right. Now it says to knead it about 100 times, then roll thin and cut in strips the width desired. Allow to dry thoroughly and store in jars or plastic containers. So, instead of using my noodle roller this morning. I'm going to go with the rolling pin. So let me move some of this stuff out of my way here. Give me some room. I need some room to roll. Just put that right there. And this is just all-purpose flour. I'm just going to put me a little bit of flour out here just so it doesn't stick. I just want to lightly coat. I've washed all my counters, got everything ready. Okay. So now, normally the recipes that I use says to let this rest. This one does not call for it to rest. Normally I'll let the pasta dough rest for about an hour and then come back and roll it. That's right, should not be. Shouldn't be right to use a modern appliance making Amish noodles. Yes, that's what I was thinking. This has still got a little bit of tearing in it, but they're not saying to let it rest. So we're going to follow the instructions. But because my hands are not what they used to be, I am going to cut this. I'm going to kind of flatten that out a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half. So I can have not as much on my hands, because my hands just do not work like they used to. So I'm going to use half, even though the recipe doesn't state that. So I'm going to get this, and then I'm going to cut it in half again. We'll see how my hands do with this. I just want to get enough flour on here to where it's not going to stick. And we'll start rolling it out. We'll see what happens here this morning. Get my rolling pin floured up. And we will get started. That's a lot of dough. But out of all the noodles that I found for my husband, he really likes the Amish noodle for, like, if I'm just having chicken, and then I make him a noodle on the side. It's going to take just a little longer today because we're doing it the old-fashioned way. It's just to roll them out to the thickness that I want. And it's rolling out nicer than I thought it would. I think it's going to be a very nice dough. My puppy is just being really needy this morning. He's been doing that lately. I think he might be spoiled. Okay, I'm going to move this flour on over a little bit. It's wanting to stick just a wee bit on me. I'll roll it over. It doesn't say to add flour, but I don't want it sticking to my rolling pin either. I want to try and get this as close to a rectangle as I can. It's not by any way going to be perfect, but I'll see how close I can get it. Checking my thickness as I go. Just want to make sure that doesn't stick. So I'm going to flop him over again. Keep moving my flour back. That is rolling out very nice. Okay. And since these are the noodles that my husband prefers, I'm going to look at the thickness and see how close I am to that thickness, and I'm almost there. So I don't think I want to roll a whole lot more. I'll turn him over one more time here. I think we're about where we want to be. And we're going to go ahead and cut some noodles. And these are by no way, shape, or form going to be even. Okay. So, I'm just going to take off a little bit of this edge. I'm just going to try and get this as close as I can to being rectangle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start rolling this. I'm going to roll 1/2. Let me add just a wee bit of flour, not much, just enough to where it doesn't stick. And I'm just going to roll 1/2 in, about like so. Then I'm going to roll this half in. And we'll see what this looks like. And then I'm going to cut me some noodles. And I'll have to look at my thickness and see if that's what I like. Actually, this dough worked up very, very nice. I'm surprised. I didn't think it would, because it didn't say to let it rest. I'm trying to get it close to about this size. So we'll see what happens here. I'm sure that none of my noodles are going to be the same size. but it will be just fine. And you'll see why I rolled it in half here in just a minute. Okay, now, I usually lay my noodles out on a sheet, a cookie sheet, and lined in aluminum foil. But today we're going to try this. Now, the reason I folded them in half is because you can pick them up and they're practically going to fall apart. So, I'm going to do a hanging noodle today. And we'll see if this is about the thickness that I want, or if I want to go just a little thinner. I might want to go just a little thinner on the next one, just by the feel of my dough. And I'm just going to hang these like in half. That way when they dry, I can break them in half. It'll be easier for storage. Now these may shrink up a little bit as they dry. So I don't want them to be too thin. I think that's going to be very pretty. I hope you can see that. They may want to be just a little thinner the next time. I want to space these out enough to where they're going to dry good. Just leave a little bit of space in between them. And you can see how rolling that in the middle, those just want to unfold on their own. I think those are going to be very pretty. The longer ones, I'm going to go ahead and move them up a little bit, just to give them plenty of drying space. And I think when these dry and I snap them in half, that will be nice. So these ones in the middle, I'm just going to move them over. I don't think I cut quite thick enough on those. And this is still a little bit sticky, which I'm very surprised. Like I said, this is the first time I've used this recipe, so you're doing this with me for the first time. And I like to try new things in the kitchen, so this is a new one today. And this is probably going to take at least 24 to 48 hours to hang dry. I can also roll these in little nests if I want to, and dry them that way. So, I think the next time I will go just a little bit thinner. On the dough. These are still a little bit thicker, I think, than what I really would have wanted. But they'll make a nice chicken noodle soup. Or a chicken Alfredo. I'm going to go ahead and give those just a little bit more of a cut. Didn't quite cut all the way through. I just should have put my cutting board, and I just didn't want to mar my counter. So next once I'll put my cutting board under before I cut. But I think those are going to be very pretty. Definitely should have put the cutting board under. I wasn't sure the flexibility on this dough. So like I said, this is a new one. A new recipe for me. But those are nice and solid. I'd like to see them just a little bit thinner, I believe, on the next bunch. They're unfolding nice. They're hanging nice. I think I can go back to the bottom one again. Oh, that's still a little bit long, so we'll go high. And I'm just going to kind of rotate these around where they're not touching the ground. And then I'll set my rack up on something higher so that nothing's touching. I think this is going to be a nice, easy recipe. You don't have to stress out too much about the rise time. We'll see how they dry. We'll see how they cook up. And I may go ahead and put some of the extra dough in the refrigerator. Let it set overnight. And then do it tomorrow if I'm running out of room on my rack. We'll see how much we can put on the rack before I feel like it's getting to be too much. You can use a larger rack if you want to hang these on. I'm just going to be making them in small batches. It's only my husband and myself, so I don't have a large family. So for me, this would be pretty efficient, easy. And like I said, my noodles are definitely not going to be the same width because I'm hand cutting them. But I think that's a nice size noodle. It's a little bit thicker than what I would have liked. I wish I would have went a little bit thinner with the dough. So the next time I'll roll it just a little bit thinner. And I thought if I was going to have some Amish noodles, I'd like to have a nice little drying rack just to have them hanging up and drying natural. And this is an all-natural wood rack. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use this little bit of dough that I have over here. Don't want to waste. Some of these are going to be thicker than the others, but it'll be okay. I think the more that I use this recipe, the more used to it I'll be cutting my own instead of the machine cutting. But sometimes it's kind of nice to do things like this. And these smaller ones, I'm just going to lay them on a tray and let them dry. So I'm going to put them off to the side. Since they're not that big, I'm just going to throw them on a cookie sheet with some aluminum foil. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go to my next one. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap that dough so it doesn't dry out. This one is a little bit of a process. I'm just going to wrap this extra dough up here. That way it doesn't get too dry on me. Because my hands are definitely not working like they used to. I think those are going to be very pretty. Again, I'm kind of aiming for something about like this. So I'm getting close as far as the size wise. I'm off on a few, but it'll be alright. See if I can't knead this a little bit. Get it moistened back up. And we'll get it rolled up. We're definitely going to go thinner this time. This dough is really thick. It's got nice electricity, yeah, to it. A nice feel. It's nice and elastic almost. I'm going to add just a wee bit of flour. I don't want them sticking. Yeah, this would definitely take a little bit longer if you're doing it by hand like this. I do have the roller. I could run it through. But I thought since we're making Amish noodles, we're going to use the rolling pin. It's definitely getting a little bit of flexibility to it. I definitely want to try and get this one a little bit thinner. So we'll see if we can't get this one just a little bit thinner. Definitely running it through the crank would speed this process up. But actually, this is a nice dough. That's it. Like I said, this is the first time I've tried this recipe, so this one's new. It is a pretty dough. You can see how nice that's forming. It's very very nice dough. Pretty yellow. See if I can't get these just a little bit thinner. That other was just a little bit thicker than what I would have liked. That feels better. Feels a lot better. Okay, so let me go ahead and roll this up. And then I'll move my cutting board over because I didn't want to cut into my countertop and mar it up. So I was trying to be a little bit easy. So I'm going to do the same as I did the last time. I'm just going to roll it in half, like you would a cinnamon roll. Just kind of fold it over. And then I'm going to do the other half the same way. And then we'll give it a cut and see what we think. This time we're using the cutting board. So, let's see what we get this time. I think I could have used a little sharper knife. I like the way it feels, the way it's cutting. It's a nice dough. See how it dries. And then I'll adjust my thickness. And because of my hand damage, nerve damage, I may have to run this through my crank roller to get it rolled out a little better. It's very easy to handle. And again, we're following the recipe up to this point here. We'll see what these look like. That feels a little better. It's just a wee bit thick. I definitely would have to roll it maybe a little bit more. I'd like to see that just a little thinner. But I just do not have the hand strength I used to. So I may have to use the crank roller to get it a little bit thinner, because that's still just a little thick, but it is making beautiful noodles. As you can see. It's unrolling nice. It's not tacky. And I would say by the feel of it, it would take about 24 hours to dry. Maybe just a little bit longer. And I don't want to really roll these in any more flour because I don't want a whole lot of flour on the noodle. But those are pretty. it turning out nice. This is something to help me pass my day. I like that. If I was by myself, I'd have a little bit of music on. Just enjoying some quiet time on a winter day. It's very relaxing. And I think that fold will be really nice because if I want to break it twice, I'll have plenty there to break it twice for storage. But I don't know with my hands if I can get that rolled out with my roller as thin as I would like to. I'd like to have that just a touch thinner. Just a wee bit thinner. But they're hanging nice. They're staying fairly straight. If I wanted to, I could actually take them and straighten them even more. Just do a little pat. And I think they would lay very nice on the drying rack. These odd pieces, I'm just going to throw over there. Get them out of the way. And I'll just dry those. And those will just be added to the noodle container. But so far, I think this is going to be just perfect. I mean, I'm not seeing a problem. The dough has a nice texture, a nice flexibility to it. Definitely, I would want to use my roller. I'm going to use that other half. I'm going to leave it in plastic. And I will use the hand crank on the other half. So I'm just going to go ahead and get through this half, get these hung. And then I'll go ahead and end this one today. And I just wanted to try out this new recipe and see what I thought of this dough. I think that is going to make some very, very pretty noodles. But because my hands are so weak, I just really don't think I'm going to be able to get that dough to the thinness that I would like. I'll just use the crank roller and roll it and then hand cut them, just like I did here. I think they'll be just fine. Very pretty noodles. Just a little thick. This will make a nice chicken Alfredo or a nice chicken noodle soup. But they're just a little bit thicker than what I'd want if I was just making noodles with a little bit of chicken flavor for a side dish. I'd like them to be just a little thinner. So I'll do the hand crank for the rest of them. And then I'll come back on and do a live and show you the difference in the noodle between the hand crank and me trying to do the rolling pin. I think I'm going to be impressed with the dough with the hand crank. So it'll be pretty quick. I'm not going to be cutting with the hand crank pasta maker. I'm just going to be rolling the dough through just to give my old hands a little bit of a break. But I really do like this dough recipe. I think this is going to be a really good dough recipe if you want Amish noodles. And this is the traditional recipe from the Amish cookbook that I picked up. I've had it probably for about a year or more. And I've made a few recipes, from that book. And Everything I've made so far, I've been very impressed. It's been absolutely delicious. It's a really nice cookbook. And a lot of the recipes remind me of my grandmother, who was a Mennonite, and some of the meals that she would prepare. And that's what attracted me to the cookbook when I seen it. So I thought I would try out some recipes. And since I had my noodle maker out and I've been making some noodles, I thought we'd go ahead and try the recipe that was in this book as well. I think those are going to turn out very nice. I like the little rack. It's not going to take up much space. My cookie sheets take up like 1/2 of my island in my kitchen. And they're normally out for about 24 to 48 hours. So this way it'll save me some space for drying the noodles. So that is half of my dough. So the other half I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm going to run it through my crank pasta maker to see if I can get the noodles a little thinner. As far as the dough, as far as the texture, I am impressed. I do like it. I like the feel of it. So I will go ahead and run this half through my crank and see the difference of how much easier it is for me in my hands. And as far as the dough, I would recommend this recipe. It's very pretty. You can see how pretty and yellow that is. It's going to make really nice noodles. I'm very impressed with that. I do like the idea of the little hanging rack, because it's going to save so much space as far as me just putting some noodles out to dry. It's compact, and I like compact. And again, we were just trying to get close to this noodle, which is a little thinner, a good bit thinner than what I've got, so that's why I'm going to go with the hand crank. I don't think I have the strength in my hands to do the roller. Maybe over time I can get used to it. But this was the first try. Again, we're kind of looking for something similar to this. So I think we're pretty close on the size. We just need a little thinner. So that's what we're going to be working on today. And then I did show you, I had got the new dehydrator, and we ran the frozen corn through. It turned out beautiful. You can see what a pretty color that is. Then these were just frozen vegetables. And then I ran the peas through, and you can see what a pretty color. And then today I emptied my mixed vegetables. And this has corn, peas, carrots, and green beans. It kept a beautiful color. I ran all 3 of these through on the same setting, 122 in my new dehydrator, and I set it for 8 hours. I didn't have to rotate my trays. Everything dried evenly, and I'm very impressed. And that is the Magic Meal. Bring it over a little closer so you can see it. And it came with 7 trays. It's very compact. I'm very impressed. So my review on that is thumbs up. I like that I didn't have to rotate any of my trays. Everything dried evenly. Everything dried on the same temperature. First I ran through 7 trays of corn, frozen corn, and in 8 hours it was dehydrated nicely. And the second run through I put 5 trays of frozen peas and 2 trays of corn, and I ran them again on the same temperature. And then my final one that I did yesterday was my mixed vegetables, frozen mixed vegetables, corn, peas, carrots, and green beans. I ran it through on the same 122 in the same 8-hour cycle. And the color is beautiful. They almost look like fresh garden peas and corn. They're so pretty and bright. And I just saved some spaghetti sauce jars I had, washed them, ran them through the dishwasher, and sanitized them. And then I just added my dehydrated vegetables in here and put in a oxygen absorber. So now these are shelf steady. So I ended up with, altogether, I ended up with this much corn, and that would have been 7 shelves on this one and then 2 shelves on this one. Then I ended up with 2 of the peas, and I had 1 bag of frozen vegetables, so I just went ahead and ran those through. So that's what I ended up getting from the dehydrator, and I got all this done. I did, let's see, 1, 2, 3 days. So now I can put my dehydrator off to the side. And since I was making noodles, I thought I would go ahead and try the new recipe. And again, that recipe is from this cookbook. It's the Amish Community Cookbook. And it says, Simply Delicious Recipes from Amish and Mennonite Homes. And then the recipe that we went with today was the traditional noodle. Now up here would be your homemade noodles, which would be like an egg noodle. And then this was a traditional noodle. So I'll get that closer so you can see how pretty those are. So that's what we were trying today. This is my first time trying it. It was 6 eggs, 4 tablespoons of cold water, a half a teaspoon of salt, and 4 cups of all-purpose flour. Mix the eggs, cold water, and salt well. Add the flour and knead about 100 times. Roll thin, cut into strips of the width desired. Allow to dry thoroughly and store in jars or plastic containers. So that is the recipe. So that's what we did today. I really like that. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to see how these noodles dry. I'm going to give them 24 hours. And if they look good and dry, then we'll come back on and do a small live maybe tomorrow or within 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours. So that's all I have for today. I'm going to hop off of here and enjoy some coffee. Poppy put himself back in bed. He says, I'm tired, Mama. So, since Puppy's resting, I'm going to go ahead and do a kitchen cleanup after I go ahead and roll out the rest of my noodles. So, until next time, stay in, stay warm. Go to the kitchen, try something new. And for me, I know that we're eating healthy. I know there's no preservatives in it. I know what I'm putting in it. And I enjoy putting the time in the kitchen. So, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it was informative. Again, the cookbook is, I was attracted to it because my grandmother was a Mennonite. And this is the Amish Community Cookbook. And I think I may have picked this up, possibly Walmart. And I got this 12 of 2023. So, and I've been trying some different recipes, and they are absolutely amazing. So, till next time, stay in, stay warm, stay safe, and enjoy your cooking and baking in the kitchen. And until next time, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye. Oh, and don't forget, please be kind. Be kind to one another. We really need to see more of that. It'd be very nice. So till next time, bye-bye. Enjoy your day.